Man, you made a bad decision. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you made a bad decision. It's not the end of the world.
And if I can't prove otherwise, that it is the end of the world.
Power, hubris, desire. A universally toxic brew of circumstance and attitudes that can immediately lead one from the path of presumptive excellence to the perpetual plummet of infamy. We have seen it all before.
I make this apology to my neighbors and my constituents, but I make it particularly to my wife, Huma. I had hoped to be able to continue the work that the citizens of my district elected me to do, to fight for the middle class and those struggling to make it. Unfortunately, the distraction that I have created has made that impossible. So today I am announcing my resignation from Congress.
Yeah! Bye-bye, pervert!
Over the course of my public life, I have insisted, I believe correctly, that people, regardless of their position or power, take responsibility for their conduct. I can and will ask no less of myself. For this reason, I am resigning from the office of governor.
Men who have worked their way to the very heights of society and public service, yet are willing to risk becoming a pariah of the very communities that they claim to champion by behaving counter to their proclaimed morals and even the law. Yes, we have seen it before. And here, you will see it again.
Continuing our conversation with State Senator Ralph Shortey about changing some of the language in the state questions that you approved a couple months ago having to do with criminal justice reform. Just got this question in from Phyllis. She said, Mr. Shortey, if you did not read the bill before you voted on it, how do we have confidence that you are reading the legislation that you're currently working on?
Well, I, like every other voter, read the ballot title, and I agreed with the intent of the ballot title. But there were a lot of changes in the actual statutes, and that's, this is not like a constitutional amendment. This was a statutory change done through a constitutional process. So no, I didn't go through and read the 27 sections of law that were changed.
This is Ralph Allen Lee Shortey, at arguably the height of his personal life and political career. Little did he know that about 3 weeks after giving this interview, his entire world would begin to self-destruct. By all rights, Ralph Shortey was, after a fashion, a living example of the proverbial American dream. Born into poverty, never knowing his father, raised by a drug-addicted mother and a succession of abusive stepfathers, Ralph survived school bullies, got his diploma, married his high school sweetheart, with whom he would ultimately have 4 children, and in 2010 ran a successful campaign to become an Oklahoma state senator. By all outward appearances, a true rags-to-riches story. Ralph Shortey was a self-made man. He had to be at the top of the world. But he was about to throw himself off a cliff. On the night of March 9th, 2017, in the city of Moore, Oklahoma, a concerned father called the police and asked that a welfare check be initiated regarding his 17-year-old son. His son, the father told police, had a, quote, history of soliciting himself on Craigslist for sexual conduct, unquote. The father directed the police to a room at a Super 8 motel. As they approached the motel room, officers could smell a strong odor of raw marijuana. Knocking on the door, the occupant of the room challenged police to know why they were there. He also told them he was the only one in the room. After advising the occupant that if he did not open the door, they would acquire the master key and do so themselves, he finally relented. The 17-year-old boy exited to speak outside with the officers, who then engaged the man in the room.
Come out.
I'm right here. Hey,
Come out before you get me worried. Show me your hands.
Okay.
Take a seat on the...
What's going on?
What's going on with you, man?
Just trying to have
A good time? Yeah. What's your name?
Ralph.
Ralph what?
Shorty.
You got an ID, Shorty? Shorty doesn't sound like a last name to me.
It's my last name.
Shorty is?
Yeah. At the cartoon.
And then you growed like 10 feet? It kind of doesn't work, does it?
I'm sorry, guys. You're kind of freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we do. He's 17.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
I didn't know you.
Okay. But you got a 17-year-old hanging out with you.
I mean,
Dad's worried, and you understand that?
yeah, I didn't know.
Okay, you got ID on you? Is there any other drugs in here other than weed?
No, there's nothing.
Is there any guns in here?
No, sir.
Okay.
Can you show me that he's only 17?
No, I can't, but I can convince you that he is.
Well, yeah,
I can put you in handcuffs and throw you in the back of a car.
We do that.
Okay, let's see an ID real quick.
We didn't just show up here.
Thanks, sir. You can take a seat back on the bed. Oh, I don't know. I'm telling you he's 17. Like, I wouldn't lie to you. Like, what sense does it make me lie to? But listen, whatever you're doing, it's a bad fucking idea. Does that make sense to you? Like, getting high with a young kid, whatever, is a bad idea. No matter how, if they're 17 or 20, like, it's a bad idea. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you want to have fun by yourself, if you got things you got to figure out, you need to figure that out, and you can live your life however you want to live it. But when you start doing it with kids and stuff, then it starts to become a serious problem. Because listen to me, like, if he was a couple years younger, you'd be going to prison. You understand what I'm saying? With no strings attached. We'd be blowing this door up and we'd be taking you in our car. You understand what I'm saying? So you need to be careful about what you're doing out there. Just like he really needs to second guess his life choices. But you do too, because you can get yourself in a bad fucking spot. Do you understand that? Does that make sense?
Under Oklahoma law, the age of consent is 17. So, no matter how uncomfortable a notion, a 35-year-old adult engaging in sexual activity with a 17-year-old is not, in and of itself, illegal. However, Ralph Shortey was not involved in a purely social encounter, but rather one of solicitation. And the Oklahoma statutes regarding child prostitution apply to any such conduct with a person under the age of 18. Additionally, Ralph Shortey had driven the 17-year-old to the motel for the purposes of the encounter, thus making him liable for child sex trafficking. And the cherry on top for the conservative, family values politician was a twist of geography. Because the Super 8 motel he had chosen to engage in prostitution rested within 1,000 feet of a church, a violation of the law all on its own. The truth of these events and circumstances were known and verified the night of Shortey's encounter with police. There was little debate as to what had occurred, nor was there any doubt as to the inevitable peril Shortey had created for himself. Yet 1 week later, on March 16, 2017, Ralph Shortey would be formally interviewed by police, and over the ensuing hour would perform an act of gaslighting so all-encompassing as to be laughable. Who are the police going to believe, after all? The prestigious Ralph Shortey, or their lying eyes? Notice also that Shortey has arrived without a lawyer, a universally fatal mistake when being interviewed by police regarding criminal activity. Whether an extension of his hubris or his naivete, it will not be the last indication that Ralph Shortey is completely in over his head.
Come here if you don't mind, I can see right there. So other than this, are you doing alright today?
Yeah, alright.
First off, let me start off with saying,
I've got a little bit of a blood pressure issue.
Okay.
So just if I get a little lightheaded.
let me know.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Just a preamble before proceeding. I am no psychologist. I do, however, own a couch. So my comments and observations will be purely from a layman's perspective. That said, I find it interesting Shortey precedes what he has to know is going to be a disastrous conversation by conjuring up the possibility of a medical issue. Is he being honest? Setting up an escape for himself? Or both? Impossible to say, as he never plays that card during the interview. After it concluded, however, he apparently did make a claim of medical distress along those lines.
Alright. Well, like I told you on the phone, I guess, had some officers contact you at Super 8 on March the 9th, I think it was, real early in the morning.
Yeah, Wednesday night, I think.
And so that's what we're here to talk about. Why don't you tell me what transpired there?
Well, we were inside talking, and we heard a bang on the door. I honestly didn't know who it was. Couldn't see through the keyhole or the peephole. And so, the young man I was with, I know has, I've known him for. We've been talking. He's come to the coffee shop that I operate a couple times. I've even had him over to my house, play video games before. Had no idea. Told me when I first met him that he was 20.
This will be the first of several instances where Shortey will insist he thought the 17-year-old was actually 20. And this claim is made after his saying he had known the boy for some time, even having him over to his house to play video games. That amount of prior contact, I would wager, actually works against the believability of Shortey's claims to have had no notion of the young man's age.
And so when they first got there, I didn't know what the issue was. Didn't know if it was, somebody trying to get in or what.
Mm-hmm.
So, I asked them, they said it was a wellness check or something like that, and I said, hey, I'm fine. And they were persistent, and then I could finally see a badge on one of them. And then they said that there was a minor inside the room. Obviously, I had no idea when I first met this young man. He told me he was 20 years old. Like I said, we've been talking on the phone for a while. He, in fact, for a few months, even told me that he went to California to try to get in the music industry or something. So that was when I opened the door, because, it just didn't make any sense to me why, there'd be
Police there.
Actually, what I asked him was, I said, are you minor? And he said, no, let me go talk to them. And I said, okay. And he went out there, and that's, I don't know what they talked about, but I asked him to check his ID. So again, I'd never even thought to ask him for his ID. There was no reason to. So anyway, I guess after that, one of the men, Sergeant something, I can't remember his last name, he's bald. He lectured me quite a deal. At that point, I was, again, blood pressure. I had to sit down, couldn't even really, I don't even honestly remember what I said to him, a little bit, I think. And I just needed to not have a stroke. So I was caught off guard by that. I think they asked me at some point if they could search the room. I had my computer bag with me, and one of the men searched my computer bag as well as the room. As far as I know, there was nothing found.
In point of fact, inside Shortey's computer bag was an open box of condoms. He'll be reminded of this later, but it's one more example of selective memory at best and gaslighting at the worst.
So that was that.
Okay. So they said pardon me. They said they smelled weed in the room. Were y'all smoking weed or anything like that?
I was not smoking weed.
Was there any in there?
No.
Okay.
And again, I asked them to search. They wanted to search my bag. So I don't remember. I think he He needed a place to stay for the night. I think he had a bag with him. I don't know if they searched that.
Okay.
I did not.
So did you stay there all night after the cops left? Or?
No, I left a little while later.
About what time?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But
you didn't stay until in the morning?
I wanted to make sure that I was okay to leave.
Okay.
And that was off.
So you say how long you known the guy?
It's been definitely over a year.
Okay.
Another damning admission, in my opinion. Knowing the young man's true age, Shortey is admitting to having begun associating with the boy when he was even younger, in or around the age of 16. Not exactly a beneficial tidbit to his case.
What do you know him by? What's his name? You know his last name?
No, honestly, I don't remember. He's been over to my coffee shop a couple times. I know that he had been arrested for drug dealing in the past. I know that he had dropped out of high school. He was trying to get a GED. I was trying to help him through that. In fact, when we first met, I was trying to help him study and things like that for the GED. And then when I lost contact with him for 4 or 5 months, when he went to California or wherever, I just assumed that he had, I didn't know that's where he went.
Well, how did y'all meet?
At the coffee shop. I'm pretty sure of that.
What coffee shop are you talking about?
That's my guy. I own a coffee shop. It's called Holy Grounds Coffee.
Okay.
And 8613 Southwestern.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that's how we met. I honestly don't remember.
Given that his reflexive response was to say he first met the boy at his coffee shop, I find it odd that Shortey would suddenly walk back that certainty of memory.
Well, how did y'all meet?
At the coffee shop. I'm pretty sure that's how we met. I honestly don't remember.
And you will hear this same pattern again and again during the interview, giving an affirmative response, and shortly thereafter a half-hearted muttered retraction or comment of uncertainty. It is almost as if Shortey has no idea what will help or hinder him during this conversation. It's almost as if he could really use a lawyer.
It's the only place I probably would have met the guy. So anyway, he's been over a couple times there. When he came back, he was, in fact, he told me he wanted to go be an anesthesiologist or something. And I said, you can't go without a high school diploma, you can't do anything without a high school diploma. And so, I know that the day after the incident happened, he was going to test for the GED. Strongly encouraged him to do that. The night that he called me, he said he just needed to get out of his house. I'm assuming I thought he had told me that he lived with some friends, and he had told me in the past that it was hard for him to get clean because he was always with his friends that living with him. And so when he called and said he needed to get out of there, that he had to test the next day, then the choice was to bring him over to my house, which I don't think my wife would have appreciated that very much. She probably would have been okay with it, but I just figured it'd be easier just to get him a place. And then we decided to talk. So.
Now, I don't know about you, but if I have a friend who just needs to talk, I might go over to their place, have them come over to my place, or meet them at a coffee shop. Going out of my way to rent a motel room just to talk makes little sense. And it is interesting that Shortey first said his wife wouldn't appreciate him having the boy over to their house, but then he awkwardly reverses himself. If Shortey's relationship with the boy was innocent and proper, then why would his wife have any kind of issue?
Okay, so how do you do you text him or how do y'all communicate?
Usually phone calls.
Phone calls?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because on his tablet he has a conversation that he says he had with you using an app called Kick. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, there's a pretty lengthy conversation on his tablet that he says is with the guy that is you, that he that is online, or the kick ID is Jamie Tilley, and you told the officers that night that that's what your online.
He calls me Jamie,
and
I'm not sure why.
Okay, and anyways, so we've got a conversation between him and this Jamie Tilley about. He says, I need money for spring break. Jamie Tilley says, I don't really have any legitimate things I need help with right now. Would you be interested in sexual stuff? He says, yes. This goes on about how can I come get you, blah, blah, blah. We go on. He says, he starts calling this guy Daddy. He says, hurry up, Daddy. I'm super horny. Hey, keep me updated because I want you bad, Daddy. The guy named Jamie Tilley says, I'm gonna fuck you like a good little boy if you keep calling me Daddy. This goes on and on and on and on. Well, then it gets to the end. It says, okay, I'll be down the street, a couple houses, in about 10 minutes or so. He says, okay, let me know so I have an idea. Then that person says, I-35 about to exit at 4th Street. And then it says, I'm here. Well, we've got a witness, pardon me, we've got a witness that sees him get in a white Grand Cherokee, and they follow that white Grand Cherokee to the hotel, first to 4th and Eastern at the gas station, and then to the Circle K. Yeah,
This is the gas station.
Yeah, at the gas station, and then to the Super 8 where the guy in the white Jeep Cherokee and him go in, check into a room, and then go back out and go into room 120. All right, and they sit there until the police show up, where she then calls his dad, and he intern calls the police, and the police show up there to 120, knock on the door, and then you come out. So again, I ask, you told officers that you had an online identity, Jamie. We got a witness picking him up at the same time that this message was sent saying I'm here. So I kind of got to say that Jamie Tilley's you.
It's not me.
It's not you. Okay.
We communicated by phone. There was no sexual intention that night.
Okay. You got anything there? So how did you meet?
I want to say it was at our coffee shop.
Okay. So, like, he just walks in, you guys strike up a conversation, become friends?
Yeah, it's happened many times.
Invite over to your house. Has your wife met him?
I think so.
Okay. Now, you said he's come to your house several times to play video games?
I think just once.
Come to your house once to play video games, and then you guys met at the coffee shop a couple of times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if I said that he told you you guys met through a Craigslist ad the very first time, when he posted in Casual Encounters?
No.
Okay.
Well,
Can I add, is he legitimately underage?
Yeah.
Even if Shorty's bewilderment here was genuine, it is quite amazing that he would feel the need to ask this question after his contact with the police at the motel, and his now sitting in an interview room at a police station on this very subject. But this play acting of ignorance is about to be shut down completely.
And he was the first time that you met him, and I said...
16.
I asked him, I said, hey, does he know how old you were? And he said, yeah, he knows, because we had a discussion about it, and at first he was uncomfortable with it, but then he finally got over it.
In this conversation, it says, she needs me to go to the store for her. My 3-year-old is sick. That's one of the things I've been dealing with tonight. We're not going to have enough time. Can we get together tomorrow, after 1? I'll get a hotel room or something if that would make it easier. It goes on talking about the coffee shop, my coffee shop. I'll be alone in about 10 minutes at my coffee shop. He says, can I help you with anything for spring break? Again, you said just customers, but I'll leave in here close to 8. Okay. I'll be your slave. That sounds nice. I mean, we go on and on and on. And
How old is your youngest child?
5 months.
Okay. So he's telling me that when he first met you through Craigslist, that he had posted an ad in Casual Encounters, and that he had a lot of responses for it, but that you said that you wanted him to mess around with your wife while you watched. He said that he showed up to do that, or you guys got together and started talking about that. He found out your wife was pregnant, and then said that it never happened because she was pregnant. So here's the deal, Ralph. You and I both know what the truth is, and the truth is not what you're telling us. We're not saying you're a bad guy. We're not saying you set out thinking that this is some 15-year-old kid you're going to go bang. We're not saying that. We're saying, hell, maybe you didn't know how old he was. I don't know. I think you probably did based on what he's telling me, but things are what they are. Tell us the truth. Get it out there. Let's get this over with, get this behind us so we can all move on.
I'm telling you that.
No, you're not. You're telling us part of what happened, but you're not telling us what's going on.
you told the officers there that you had an online identity of Jamie.
He's talking about, you talk about in these texts when this Kick account, about your kids and your kid being sick and your coffee shop and that you got customers left and that you close at 8. I mean, it's clearly you.
I'm telling you, that's not me.
It clearly is you. Ralph, that's a lie. You're lying to us right now. That's clearly you. No one else. With daughter sick, coffee shop, I'm here and you're there. That's clearly you.
I don't know who else he could have been talking to.
I agree with you. Nobody
has
a coffee shop and has a sick kid, and all this stuff.
And showed up.
It's you. And here's the deal. He says it's you that he's talking to.
You show up with condoms. He shows up with lotion. I mean,
that's not true. Hold on.
Yeah, there was condoms in your bag. The cop saw them.
That's just absolutely not true. I did not show up there for any sexual thing.
Well, then there's also weed that was in a green plastic container, marijuana that was in a green plastic container with labels from Colorado, that was in the room.
Did you ever touch that bottle?
No.
So there's no way your fingerprints will be on it?
No.
Okay,
because we have the bottle.
I don't know what to tell you.
He says, matter of fact, he says when the police knocked on the door that y'all were both smoking marijuana.
He said that he brought a gram and you brought a gram, and you guys rolled a huge blunt, and that you guys were planning on messing around, it just hadn't got there yet. And that he was going to do you a favor by whatever it was you guys were going to do, and that you were going to do him a favor by kicking him some money for spring break.
It is at this moment, in my estimation, that the true reality of the situation and the futility in trying to deny it have finally struck home for Ralph Shortey. Because this was never a conversation to get his side of the story. It was not even an interrogation for the sake of gathering evidence. It was, essentially, the scenic route in arriving at the destination of, you are under arrest. If the notion of a personal apocalypse needed an image for its dictionary definition, surely this would make a fine portrait. Shortey would continue with his denials and long silences for another half an hour, but inevitably he would be arrested, charged, and ultimately pled guilty to child prostitution, sex trafficking, and prostitution within 1,000 feet of a church. In court, Shortey had been facing a maximum of life in prison, though the government had been asking for only 25 years. In the end, likely due in part to Shortey's troubled childhood, the judge was merciful and sentenced him to 15 years in prison and 10 years of supervised release thereafter. Shortey's wife filed for divorce in early 2018, changing her and her children's last names and moving away to fully cut themselves off from Shortey. He is currently imprisoned at the Federal Correctional Facility in Segoville, Texas. He will be released in 2033 when he will be 51 years old. A wife, a family, a position of respect and authority built up over a lifetime of hardship and work, all destroyed inside a month's time. Power, hubris, desire. A toxic brew whose corrosive siren song did eventually